Responsibility to make sure that we together fly, run, walk, crawl, but whatever we do, we keep moving forward. Thank you for being here today. We are moving forward into a new era. We are grateful for the young people that we are bringing up as advocates and leaders for our future society. And we thank you for reminding them that together we can make progress.
Here in DC, just a quick raise of hands before you came here today. How many of you have actually heard of My Brother's Keeper DC? Awesome. All right. Well, that's great. Well, I appreciate that. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure that you all are aware of is this is an event to make sure that you're connecting to each other, you're understanding what MBK is and what we're doing moving forward. So we have a really great panel coming up to talk about the areas that My Brother's Keeper DC is focused on. We're focused on helping organizations grow by organizations and departments and community members to be able to grow by funding and supporting them. One of the, in the 4 areas that we're focused on are health, education, justice, career and business opportunities. So we have a great panel coming up that's going to be moderated by the chair of My Brother's Keeper DC, Dr. Roger Mitchell, who is nice enough to just be able to do this as somewhat of a part-time job because his full-time job is as the chief medical examiner of the District of Columbia. And I want you guys to understand the importance of that because at the end of the day, when it's our young brothers and sisters who are shot and killed and we need to understand the cause of death, it's Dr. Mitchell and his staff that's along with these individuals. So
everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So if you didn't go to church yesterday, you're going to have a little bit of church this morning.
All right.
I am a Baptist preacher, so y'all got to hold me down just a moment. I also want to give a shout out to the Director of the Department of Correction, Quincy Booth is here in the back. His head of education, Frederick Rogers, is also here. So understanding that the work that we're doing is so critically important. And you are all here, so let's give y'all a round of applause. Y'all can do better than that because y'all are here. They often will paint a dismal picture of the state of black men and boys in this country. And so we're here to add some light to that bleak picture. We're here to talk about the things that we are doing, the work that is being done, a little bit about the gaps that still exist. And then at the end of the day, we're going to have a charge for what is next in Washington, D.C. as it relates to our young men and boys of color. Y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
Man, y'all got a great panel here. Y'all didn't even know that all these brothers ran organization in the District of Columbia. And part of what My Brother's Keeper is doing is highlighting what young men can be, right? And all of us came up and have our own story, but what men can be in the city in our own lives. So we're going to jump right in. Ron, we're going to jump right in and we're going to ask a series of questions and we're going to have opportunities for the audience to ask questions as well. Ron, tell us about your work, and this is going to be for all of the panelists. Tell us about your work or the work of your department and how it serves or supports young men or boys of color.
So many of you know, for the last 20 years I've been working in Washington, D.C., working with young men and using my experiences as a brother who was locked up, a returned citizen, came home in 1995. I had My Brother's Keeper type of program help me, which was Al Malik Farrakhan, Ceasefire Don't Smoke the Brothers. And they grabbed me by them, you know what I'm saying, gave me my wings and taught me how to fly and connected me to people who I needed to be connected with to give me some hope. And that's what I'm doing. The organization I'm with now, everybody know about the Peace of Hearts and what we did, but I'm with Contemporary Family Services and the Jack Kemp Foundation. And what we do is we meet people where they at. we know there are a lot of traumatized and hurt people in our community, and we start the process of healing. So once you start the process of healing and you connect people to programs like career connections and things like that, you partner with great programs and you give people opportunities. And a lot of these young people are going in the right direction. There's a couple of them in the crowd, Erica, Roderick. These people were in the streets wrecking havoc, and now they're doing great things and going back and reaching their peers. So my thing is, get these young people, build them up, strong young brothers and sisters, and then guide them in a way where they can be productive citizens in our community. And that's what we all about.
Director Lacey.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mitchell, and thank you to the distinguished audience of community leaders who are the ones who are making the difference in this district, and to my distinguished fellow panelists. I think it's really important for us to put in the context the work that we do at DYRS and to the reason that we're here today. We're here today to launch My Brother's Keeper. We're celebrating the birthday of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And really the work of Dr. King, who confronted the fundamental contradiction in this society, that contradiction of race and racism, has everything to do with the work that we're doing today. Martin Luther King stood up to what lays at the very foundation of this nation when we were said to be 3/5 of human beings. Well, if we look at the racial disparities that take place across this nation and even within our juvenile justice system, if we were to try to calculate that numerically, we would come out to be less than 3/5 in terms of the resources that we receive, in terms of the justice that we receive, in terms of the opportunities that we have. So our work today, our work at DYRS is directly connected to the legacy of Dr. King. What we try to do to the most vulnerable of our young brothers and sisters who have ended up in the justice system is to surround them with something that you don't find in the educational journals or in the research books. We try to provide them love. Now, often people roll their eyes and say, yeah, love, you know, that sounds nice. But what we're saying at DYRS is that love translates into actual services. It translates into opportunities. It translates into resources. It translates into the experience that our young people must receive on a daily basis. So that means we wrap them around with support. We recognize that our young people, even those who have offended and have caused harm, need love, need healing, need understanding. They do need to confront their actions and what they've done. But they need our support to rebuild them, to build them up and to build up their families. The work of DYRS, therefore, isn't to try to fix people. It's not even to so much correct them. It is to invest in their growth and development by partnering with the families and the communities so that they can develop into wholesome, productive members of our community. So we do that through an array of programs from young people who are at home, wrapping them around with behavioral health services, with recreational services, with mentoring through our Credible Messenger initiative, where we're investing in the very communities that have been written off as the source of the problem. We believe that those communities also have the solutions, and the solutions are the people in those communities. And so through our initiative, we're tapping into those people, to those leaders in the communities to partner with us, to walk with us as we support our young men and women towards the greatness that we know they can achieve.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Gene Pinker.
Not doctor, just Gene. And I'd like to go after somebody besides Director Lacey. That's awesome. Really. I lead the division of DCPS that focuses on school turnaround and performance. And what we recognize is that you don't turn around a school. A school is nothing but the people in the building. So in order to improve school performance, we need to improve student performance. And in order to improve student performance, we need to improve, in fact, what we do as adults to serve the children. And when we look at the data, we recognize that the children whom we have served, not up to our own ambitions, most of all are the young black men. And so DCPS launched the Empowering Males of Color initiative, in fact, 2 years ago in conjunction with My Brother's Keeper and in conjunction with the day on which we commemorate Dr. King's legacy, because we recognize that empowering young men of color is, in fact, synonymous with the dream that Dr. King spoke of. It's not just a matter of them having a Ron Brown College Prep High School. When we create, which is, I'm glad you applaud, because if you have been there, if you have had the opportunity to visit, then you know why folks are applauding. And if you haven't, I encourage you to go. It is inspirational what Dr. Williams and his team are doing there. And in addition to that, we take a look at creating culturally responsive professional development for our teachers so they understand how to interact in a productive way with the young men. And we're expanding that into innovation grants so that schools and teachers and students can explore new ways. One of the ones that I'm most excited about, or a couple, are the Young Men's Academy within Ballou High School, the Community Service Initiative at Eastern High School, where students learn about the African diaspora and then travel abroad to do community service, and those students come back as peer leaders to teach domestic community service to their colleagues as students. It's these opportunities that help us change the conversation, so it's not just about some of the successes that we've had in reducing suspension rates and increasing reading rates, but it's also about changing the narrative so that we're looking at what our young men do so well, at the assets that they bring to the table. And that is where empowering, it's not just achievement, it's not just opportunity, but actually teaching these young men, because we will need them to join us in the struggles that are ahead.
Tony Duggar, Father Men and Boys.
Yes. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And so I represent the Commission on Father Men and Boys in the District of Columbia. We are a newly established commission. The commission was legislatively founded in 2014, but it lay dormant for a couple of years in the last administration. Under the leadership of our current mayor, Mayor Bowser, she was delivered and established in this commission by appointing 12 commissioners who are highly skilled and informed in this.
Pull it closer to you, brother.
I'm sorry. Oh, this mic is not working. Here you go. I think it's working.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Do I need to start over? I don't think so. All right. So I'm going to pick up right at the point when I was talking about our mayor, who was very deliberate in ensuring that this commission is up and running, and she did so by appointing 12 dynamic commissioners who are very skilled, informed in the work of dealing with issues concerning father, men, and boys, and let me say of color. And of color specifically because we look at disparities in 6 fundamental areas. We look at disparities in the area of education. We look at disparities in the areas of economic opportunity. We look at disparity in the area of family stabilization, or what we call rates of fatherlessness in the homes. We look at disparity in the area of health and well-being. We look at it in the area of public safety. And we look at it in the area of how we support and deal with the rehabilitation and reintegration of returning citizens. And so our commission has the expertise kind of across the spectrum to be able to take on these issues. The mayor was very deliberate as well in operationalizing this commission and appointing an executive director as well as a program analyst. And so from the time of June 15th of 2015 to today, which is probably about 18 to 19 months, we have been out very diligently in the community, involved in well over 100 different community meetings and engaging our community stakeholders. We have held 6 public forums, which have been our public meetings, and we've averaged 70 community stakeholders in those meetings. We were very pleased when we launched our first meeting to have over 125 community stakeholders. And so with that said, it's just thank you. So what that says is just really, it's the great work that we do. It is an indication of how serious and significant this work is and how interested our community is in resolving it. Since that time, I want to say that we also launched a few community programs, one being Books and Barbershop. Thank you. Yes. Because we know how important it is for our kids to read, and we know how important it is for literacy to happen in our community. And we are in the midst, probably over the next 30, 60 days, of putting in operation our webinar and training courses on our website, which we do encourage that you visit the Commission on Fatherhood and Boys website, that will have trainings in the area of responsible fatherhood, parenting, and healthy relationships. And probably as we get into the panel, we'll talk a little more about probably how significant those areas of trainings are.
I'm Charles Jones. I'm the Deputy Director for DOES, more specifically the Transitional Employment Programs, and as was mentioned earlier, Project Empowerment. And it is no mistake that it's called Project Empowerment because it's really about empowering others. As you mentioned, it talks about jobs and employment. We recognize that it's a little bit more than just jobs and employment. It's about giving people an opportunity. And for many years, many years, people have not had the opportunity. So it is our goal to try to ensure that they have an opportunity to receive training, to go back to school, and to receive the support, because as was mentioned earlier, it's not always just about giving them a job. It's really about supporting people. And the people that we support are the people that need the help the most. And that's important to not just to me, but also to our administration. Again, Project Empowerment, we've been doing it for 16 years. We've served and helped thousands of people find employment, find careers, and not just that, become empowered to help others, because that's important to us. But through this, through our new administration, of the Bowser administration, we've created other programs and other initiatives, like the Aspire program, where we've had 17 individuals who have criminal history become entrepreneurs, and I think that's big. So thanks to DSOBG for giving us the opportunity and partnering with us, because again, one of the good things about this administration is that we all work together, and we know that we can't do this by ourselves. Another program that we started was DC Career Connections, which is a program to help those who are 20 to 24 who live in certain PSAs who need the help the most. And through that, it's similar to Project Empowerment, but we focus more on credentials. So
For having Marcus Ellis, Safer, Stronger.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Let me just say before I even start, I can remember when this was just a Monday, right? A Monday off of work, and people didn't come out to do stuff like this, to do something that's about service and about really problem solving and coming up with solutions to the things that are happening in our community. So I have to say, you all are just awesome for being here today. Thank you.
Yeah.
So my particular part in this equation is the director of the Safer, Stronger DC Community Partnerships Office, and this office is a portion of Mayor Bowser's overall Safer, Stronger DC initiative. What it does is it recognizes that the answer to violence, the answer to crime is not just police. While police are extremely important, we have to have non-policing efforts in our communities. We've heard it consistently throughout the panel. Part of what we have to do is provide resources, give our young men of color opportunities, and a lot of times that's about bringing these opportunities to them, meeting them where they're at. We like to bring different organizations, different government agencies together and offer a streamlined approach. So I'll give you an example that really speaks to our work. Right up the street from here is a community by the name of Woodland Terrace. And what we do is we don't look at robberies in a neighborhood. Come in and provide those opportunities, and not just provide them on a surface level, but actually make some connections. So from 5 to 7 p.m., on three different occasions, we brought the DOES mobile unit to the community. We were able to connect over 30 young men to job opportunities. This is just one event, and the huge part of that is not to come out and not to have folks fill out a resume and feel good like, yeah, I did my job today. No, it's actually making that connection to a career connections, a project empowerment, and getting our folks, our young brothers, the training that they truly need in order to, as our mayor always speaks on, to have that pathway to the middle class. So we want to help to try to stabilize communities, right? And not come in and say, the government is the fix, but work with communities to hear directly from them about what their communities might need. So You know, one of the things that we often forget to take into account, and one of the things our office looks at, is not just the trauma of the individual who may have experienced a violent act of crime, but the fact that we have entire neighborhoods that are traumatized, right? So what is it like to go to school and pass the bus stop where you might have lost a friend? What type of trauma is that, you know? Those are all the things we really have to look at and try to address as we get to the root of.
So I like that, right? So there's a couple things that I heard in each and every one of you's conversation. I heard fatherhood, I heard support, I heard empowerment, I heard stabilization, I heard data, right? And how we use data. I heard empowerment, but I heard love as an undergirding root. And then I heard trauma. So trauma is real. You know, I grew up and my father was crack cocaine addicted. I grew up with a strong mother who raised me in a way to make sure that I had all the things that I needed. But the trauma of knowing and not having a father in my home was real trauma. And that work that needed to be done on me and in me in order to make me feel like I was worthy enough to be excellent, me what manhood looked like. That's right. So how many of you have been connected with or impacted by a mentor? And so if you have not received a mentor and never been mentored, or you or someone has never mentored yourself, you may be missing an opportunity. You may be missing an opportunity to pour into someone else's life in a way that changes their life. Because trauma is real. In the audience today we have the head of Unity Psychiatry, Dr. Asa Briggs. I don't know where he is, but give him a round of applause. And that's what we're trying to do. My Brother's Keeper is a de-siloing, convening organization. Our job is to bring community and experts together in a way that we can solve the problems that we face. So let's talk about this next question I have, man. Why is it important? It sounds like, if to the listeners, sounds like y'all all doing the same thing. Why is it important to have so much resource, or to some maybe not enough resource, to do this work? Why is it important to have initiatives that are specifically dedicated to young men and boys of color?
So when we look at communities like Congress Heights, right, where we are right now, where 91% of the 15 to 17-year-olds are raised in single-parent households, we know something is missing, like you said, being raised without a father. So it's important to have initiatives where we fill in the gaps, because a mother can't be a father and a father can't be a mother. We can try our best, but there's some great things that mothers do, and there's some great things that fathers do. And there's some great things that men who used to fill in the gaps in our community when we had the crack wars in our city. We still had people who filled in the gaps. So these initiatives are very important. And I'm just sitting here thinking, you know, for decades we had our St. John's, for decades we had our Gonzagas, but now we have our Ron Brown. You know what I'm saying? So it's important that our young men get what other young men have been getting for decades in this city, right? And I think, I look at all the women in this room, and you know, I'm a student of the civil rights movement, and I also know the importance of women dealing with guys, right? Because the movement wouldn't have been what it was without the women supporting the guys in the front and from behind. So even with these schools, it's important to have women there too, because it's just something that you bring to the table that we can't. And when we have that perfect balance, we move forward. So I think it's important to know that these initiatives are important, and it's important to have initiatives for women too, because that's the fastest growing population of people going to prison right now in our juveniles, for instance, right? But we needed this first. I mean, we needed this. We've been crying about it for a long time. What are we going to do to help our guys, right? So we're not leaving our females behind by at all. You know what I'm saying? But our guys, if we don't do something right away, right now, when you look at the data, right, of the young men going to prison, when you look at the data of the disparities in education and how they dropped out of school, right, we in trouble. So I think this is a great start. I think it's very important to have initiatives where you focus on the problems of black men and you put the right resources. And I'm gonna close with this, right? People always talk about, like you started Credible Messengers and all these Project Empowerment. They always talk about, why are they putting all the money in this? Well, I didn't hear nobody crying when we put all the money in these streetcars that didn't work for 3 years. So when we start talking about helping young black men, there are never enough resources after what we've gone through for 400 years.
I would just like to follow that up with, no one else is going to do it.
There it is.
I mean, who's going to do it? I mean, when President Obama talks about we are the change we've been waiting for, that's real.
Yeah.
I mean, so we know that we have to make the road by walking. We have to create this pathway. And so that's why I'm so thankful to the president for My Brother's Keeper and for the mayor taking the leadership to organize this and selecting you, brother, and Kendrick to lead this effort as you all facilitate the rest of the community being a part of this work so we can begin to connect the dots. As you said, it sounds like we're all doing similar work, we're all doing great work. There's great work being done by folks in this audience and those who aren't here today. How do we connect that, coordinate that, and organize those efforts? But I think ultimately most important is with all of the programs, with all of the services, with all of the opportunities that are out there, and I'm not saying that there's enough, right? And I agree that we should never apologize for bringing tremendous amounts of resources and investing in our most precious resource, our children. But with all of these resources, there's still this question of how do we get our young people to engage, right? How do we get them to walk through the door and stay in? How do we bring it to them? That's the question.
That's the
and that
question.
comes down to engaging people, talking to people, loving on people like they are our children because they are. So this is personal. That's why this is important.
So I'm going to see if I can say this correctly. So my son is here today. I'm not going to shout him out because I embarrass him often enough. He's here today because I wanted him to see this, not to see me. I wanted him to see this. We hopefully know when I say, you've heard that statistic that there are more men of color incarcerated than in college. It's not true. That's the narrative that people find easy to believe. And so we say, well, I don't want my son to grow up to be a statistic. Well, I want my son to grow up to be a statistic of the kids that don't go through the system and go straight to college and into career. That is a significant statistic. And that's important not to invalidate any of what we're talking about here of very real experiences and very real challenges in the community. But when we talk about the conversation at Ron Brown College Prep High School, or when I bring my son to something like this, or when we see all of the people in this room, we also have to recognize that there is a story that exists in our community that has to be highlighted. Because when I open Facebook and repeatedly see somebody getting pulled over or repeatedly see somebody being wrongly incarcerated, it makes us lose sight of the grand possibilities that are in front of us. And if our students, if our children aren't mindful of the great things that lie before them, they're not going to pursue them. So there are any number of data points and public stories that really talk about the negative experiences in our community. It's equally important to highlight the positive experiences and the great work that men are doing.
Tony?
Yeah, so, back to the question, the reason why we're here, why we're doing this work. One of the things the commission, as we begin to look at some of the disparities across the city, let me say, first and foremost, that the district has tremendous resources, always has had tremendous resources, and you kind of look at the resources we have here in comparison to jurisdictions across the country, then we will find that the district is very robust in how we serve the least among us. It was just last year the campaign on black male achievement ranked DC as 3rd in the nation for commitment to black male advancement. And the conversation is that when that was the inaugural report, that was the first report put out, it's connected to MBK, and it credited the mayor and the mayor's effort on 2 criteria, one being the amount of money committed to programming, and the other being innovative programming. Now the conversation is the next report coming out that we're tied for first place. And so I think that's enough to give all of us a well-rounded applause for what we're doing in the city. But let me say this, in spite of that, right, we know that community needs continue to outpace government resources. And so I always say in public forums like this, we cannot rely on the government to resolve our problems. I think that's what we're hearing the other panelists say. So let me just cite, for example, one disparity that we know of in this city. When we look at an undergraduate degree or higher, 80% of white males have an undergraduate degree or higher in comparison to 30% of black males. When we look at less than a high school diploma, 30% of white males in this city have less than 30% of black males in this city has less than a high school diploma in comparison to only 5% of white males. When we take that information and connect it over to income earnings, when we connect that over to how you live in the city and succeed, you can begin to see where we start out and how we start out. That creates a disparity in the outcome. And so that's why we're here, because the data clearly tells us where we need to focus, our efforts in terms of closing these gaps. That's a good thing. That's not a conversation where we put one ethnic group against another ethnic group. What we're talking about in the city that is very prosperous, how can we share this prosperity among all of the citizens in the District of Columbia, and particularly those who are in overlooked and underserved communities? That's what we are doing here, and we've always done it here in the District of Columbia. And I am proud to be a resident of the city where that kind of commitment is always taking place. I would suggest to you, if you haven't been to other cities, please go. Go on the internet and research some of these other jurisdictions that really are struggling to try to put together the kinds of things that we're doing here to bring a population that we're talking about forward.
And as I agree with everyone on this panel, we should not apologize for the resources that we have because it's needed. And it's been many years that things have just been unfair. And as I am a DC resident now, I have been for the last 25 years, I think back to where I grew up, which was in Upper Marlboro, where I actually had the resources. The resources were there. But I had family that lived in Montana where they didn't have pencils. That's not fair. And so then we wonder why there's so many people being incarcerated, or people, education is where it is, because things have not been fair. Right. And so I've made it my mission and my personal mission in life to make sure that things are fair. So again, the resources we have, I don't mind paying taxes in DC because again, I know where it's going. Yeah. And we're supposed to, again, it is our responsibility, it is, well, again, it's the city's responsibility to be able to assist, because for many, many years, things have just not been fair to those who want help. And what I also realized from the years of just being Charles Jones is that people want an opportunity, but we don't have that chance. That's unfair, and to me, that's criminal. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Charles, you mentioned the word fair, right? And all too often we say, we talk about second chances. I mean, one of the reasons we need to do this work is because we need to give our young men a fair first chance. So many of us just don't have a fair first chance. Our boys are hurting. I had an opportunity to serve as the superintendent at DYS for 4 years, so I had a very, very up close and personal look at the fact that our young men are hurting. When you think about, it's no different than a soldier that goes to war. Yeah. Post-traumatic stress disorder is real, and our kids are experiencing that on a daily basis. What we have to do is we have to understand that we are treating symptoms. If we've all heard of the drug K2, right? Yeah. So think about this. This is something that you can take, that you could survive from or you could not survive from. And our young men are willing to take that chance. They are self-healing. This is what they're doing. When you look at the fact that you have the alcoholism, you have the drug abuse, these are young men that are crying out for help, and they are self-healing. We have to dig in. We have to really dig in and understand that these symptoms are real and start to really heal our people. You know, Doc, I appreciate you sharing your personal testament earlier, and I'll do the same. You know, my brother died in 1991 on these same streets of.
Appreciate that. I go at least 2 Thursdays a month over to the Department of Corrections Juvenile Unit. These are where our young men are waiting they're tried as adults and they're waiting to go over into the adult side of the prison. And there's about 20-something of them. We go and we have this thing that we do that, you know, I yell out hard work, they yell back dedication. And that's an old Floyd Mayweather training tactic. I'm a boxing fan. And so when I walk in, I yell hard work and they yell back dedication. And what's exciting about these young men is when I gave them an assignment, and their assignment was to write a letter to their future selves when they get out. And they're to give me that letter. And I got that letter. And I keep it. And so they got to come see me when they get out in order to get that letter, because invariably they'll forget what they wrote in that letter. And so I took a sneak peek in these letters, right? I read the letters. And the type of insight that these young men have in their situation is the insight that I had in mine. I want to be better. I want to do better. This is a great opportunity for me. I'm going to take this as an opportunity versus a struggle. I mean, to discredit or discount the life that the Most High has given you is heartbreaking. And so the work that we do here is critically important. I want to put myself out of business. So maybe you can help me. Put the medical examiner out of business. And so my day job, my full-time job can be moderating panels. Because if I can moderate a panel every day, all day, then I would be fulfilling a dream of mine. Versus going into the autopsy suite or talking to mothers and fathers about their lost ones. And so when we talk about, to answer my own question, of why this is so important and why we need to have it, and quite frankly, every form of government should be leading to the health and wellness of its people, no matter what. Every program should be geared towards the health and wellness and safety of the people that are in that government or people that are in that jurisdiction. It's critically important. So it's all violence. The days of just pointing the finger and say that's bad, that's morally bad. You cannot put morality on being able to eat. There's no morality when you're hungry. If you're hungry, each and every one of you in this room is going to get food. You're going to eat. And if you're not, then you will turn a blind eye to the person that's getting you food. Because they're coming back with food and you're hungry. And so our job is not to feed people, but we need to feed people. Our job is to help with opportunities so people can feed themselves. There's no disconnect from anybody that's on this panel from who we're talking about. This is not a them over there. And the point of it is that you have to understand that you are the solution. And so if it's advocacy, then you need to advocate. If you need to put pressure on me as a government official, put pressure on me. If you need to be out on the block making sure that the block is clean, then you need to get out there. We cannot wait. Because it is a time of life or death. I am melodramatic because that's all I deal with is life or death.
Public Schools is, I mentioned earlier, the innovation grant. So we received some private funding through the generosity of the Schusterman Foundation to distribute innovation grants of about $2 million, which in the grand scheme of things is not a huge sum, but for a school, an individual school, it can make a big difference. Those are the grants that created the Service Abroad program at Eastern that I mentioned. They're the grants that created the Young Men's Academy at Ballou and a character education piece at Stanton. And as part of the grant, we recognize that we're this big institution that might have some good ideas, but at each school, there is a community, there is a person who knows somebody. So what we built into the grant was an incentive to engage a community partner. So a lot of folks have partnered with organizations like Reading Partners that's represented here today, and other private and nonprofit organizations to be part of their plan. So I think if we reach out into the community and look for the leadership really on the front lines, we'll find more partners and broader engagement.
Me and Director Clinton Lacey were a part of the event, and I think what we need to do is be more grassroots. The event that we did the other day in Ward 6 was addressing the Youth Rehabilitation Act that a lot of people think we need to change. And what we did was we brought people together who normally don't come together, people who don't think alike, you know. But when we left that meeting, everybody said, I didn't know this, I didn't know that, and agreed to work together. So when we start talking about changing things, it's good to have friction in the room with people who have good hearts, because that's how you make diamonds. So what we have to do is start bringing people together, right, who not normally coming together. That's what King did, right? So we bring people together who normally are comfortable in their own little worlds, and we start working together, because a lot of times we go talking down to people like we have all the answers, when really they have the answers, because if you read the Bible, right, and you know the Bible, God always sent people who've been through something, right, to go back to their people and pull them up. So we're not using people who've gone through something as part of the solution to uplift them out of the conditions that they're in. Then we just doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. I know we can keep this conversation moving the whole 4 hours, because there's enough content for that, but I want to give everybody an opportunity to just give some closing remarks, and particularly where are we going from here? And I'm going to start down with Marcus Ellis down at Safer Stronger down at the end of the table.
So to that question, Doc, I want to ask a question of the audience, if that's okay. Can I just see by a number of hands, how many folks do we have in the room that are under the age of 25? All right, okay. So, Ron, I think you know where I'm going with this. I think how we move this conversation forward is by listening to our young people.
Whoa! Whoa!
Too often, there are adults in a room making decisions for young people without including their voice. We really have to intentionally stop that, right? So one of the things that we've done to move this work forward in our office is establish what we call youth action team meetings. And these meetings aren't about talking, they're about bringing youth together with a solution-based approach to the problems in their community. So that would be my answer to that. Let's involve our youth. Let's make sure they're a part of the conversation.
Thank you. Charles?
And for DOAS, I think one of the things that we move forward and how we move forward is actually having more employers to get involved, and having these employers to hire those individuals who may have a criminal history. And I think there's things that we can do as a government to kind of help push that. It's almost for me that if you want to have business in the district, then you need to hire those who live in the district. You need to hire those individuals who may have a criminal history. So for me, that's where we need to go, and really pushing it.
Thank you. Charles? Tony.
Yeah, sure. So, everything that everyone has said certainly applies to how we move forward, because our moving forward has to be comprehensive. So we have to definitely involve employers, and we definitely have to involve youth. We have to hear from youth. I'm going to offer one thing that I think is very significant, that is based on my experience of 25 years of working in and out of child welfare and cutting my teeth on families. When you look at Father Men and Boys, which is the name of the commission that I represent, the commonality to Father Men and Boys is families. Boys come out of families, young men are connected to families, and fathers ought to be a part of families. And so just the base of my work, I realize until we begin to change the condition of fragile families in our community, build families to becoming healthy families, we can then begin to change communities and make communities thriving communities. Thank you.
In DC Public Schools, we've recognized that when we talk about all of this work, it's really about educational equity, and at its very root is social justice. And I was a social justice major in college, and what speaks to my heart and what Dr. King spoke of that makes him such a great man is the notion of what our innate rights are. And that's big ideas, but when it comes down to just a systemic level, it means that we take a look at the initiatives that we have that are working, whether it's Ron Brown or the work at any of these men on the panel, the work at the Academy at Ballou or the programs at Eastern and Stanton, and we extrapolate the things that have to happen for every young man in the city. We can't improve schools and then, oh, by the way, let me empower young men over here. We can't change opportunities in the city and then have this extra project for working with kids who need the most support. And so what I'm saying is when we find these lessons that learn, even in an individual mentoring relationship, the lessons we learn there are the ones that we have to create systems and structures to support and expand the program so that they are actually what we do as an institution.
That's good. That's good.
I think this is a special opportunity that we have today, that we have in front of us. And it may not be the first time we've had such an opportunity, but it's here, it's present for us. And so where we're going, I think I can speak collectively for us that we're not going backwards. We're going to go forward. As has been said before, we're going to go deeper into the community. We're going to engage our young people. We're going to listen to the voices of our young people and their parents and their families and the community and reimagine what we can do collectively for our young people and put that vision, that image into action. That's where we're going. I'm confident of that, and I'm humbled to be able to walk this walk with everybody in this room.
That's good.
Working with pretty much everybody on this panel, I think we're going in the right direction. To me, the biggest thing that I see happening that didn't happen in the past, we didn't empower our young people. That's right. One of the problems that black men have had in our communities, we want to take everything to the grave with us and never empower the next generation coming behind us, right? So when you see those young people over there who used to be banging and then they go into their community, they setting up events, they interning in the deputy mayor's office, and they learning how to be leaders. When you see them go through project empowerment and they get a crash course on what life really is like, you know, what it's like to come on time, what it's like to have responsibility. When you see young outreach, guys going in the street and getting the bangers, the shooters, right? And giving them that love and hope which gets them to put the gun down, right? We going in the right direction. And I think that's something that we have not done. I've seen it and it hurts my heart when I see guys not willing to uplift the young people and let them do what they supposed to. They supposed to be 10 times greater than us, right? And we should know that if they are better than us, we've done our job, and that makes our great, and that all makes us great and leaves us with a legacy, right? Because then we can talk about the work that we did. We can talk about, like, just imagine a person who mentored Martin Luther King. You understand what I'm saying? He had a mentor. King had a mentor. For y'all who don't know, that young man who was in his primes, in his 20s, had some mentors, right? And they guided him in the right way, and they helped make him great. So we got to make sure that we learn that that's what we got to do. And to me, that's the best thing we can do. And that's what we can put more resources in, because peer-to-peer mentoring, peers follow their peers. Yes, sir. They listen to their peers, right? And we're supposed to give those leaders the wisdom to enhance those skills that they already have as natural leaders. And when we start doing that with the masses of our children, it's nothing that's going to stop this movement. And I just want to close with one statement from King. Our lives matter. The day we become sound about our lives begin to end the day we become sound about the things that matter. And our young people and our young black men should matter to all of us.
Let's give a round of applause for our panel.
Secretary of the District of Columbia and the chair of the Martin Luther King Holiday Commission to welcome you here to Friendship Public Charter Tech Prep Academy. We honor Dr. King's legacy through service, and today through the launch of My Brother's Keeper DC. In a few minutes, we will swear in our new commissioners. These individuals are outstanding members of the community who have dedicated their lives to the principles and the teachings of Dr. King. The MLK Holiday Commission assists the mayor on matters relating to the district's celebration of this annual public holiday, commemorating the birth of Dr. King, which is celebrated on January 15th, his actual birthday, or on the third Monday of January each and every year. Mayor Bowser's vision is the reason that this launch is taking place today, and I want to thank the mayor and all those who had a part in putting this program together.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Y'all can do better than that.
Good morning to you.
It is my joy to be here today to give some reflections on Dr. King. Langston Hughes wrote a poem, and the poem says this: there's a dream in the land with its back against the wall. By muddled names and strange, sometimes this dream is called a dream that knows no barrier, that knows no race. A dream that can't be kept locked up in any one locked place. A dream of today in battle, with its back against the wall. If it could be a dream for one, it's got to be a dream for all. And in view of the impending coronation this week, some of y'all are real slow. In view of the impending coronation this week, maybe I need to give a little English lesson. Inauguration means that you are starting something. Coronation means you are crowning something.
Naughty.
Is that a little clearer? So in view of the fact of the impending coronation, we should be very clear about some principles about Dr. King. Now, I have been allotted a lot of time, so what I have attempted to do is to make concise some of the things that I think are the great contributions of Dr. King. But before I go into them, in the mayor's absence, I think it should be said that she deserves great celebration and support for this initiative. Because the scriptures teach that leadership understood that whenever you wanted to silence the future, you kill the boys. Y'all slow this morning.
Well,
I have a little laryngitis, but we're going to get through this. But the scriptures teach that whenever you want to silence the future, you kill the boys. Pharaoh said, kill all the boys. And Herod, thank you, and Herod sent a team to Bethlehem to kill all the boys. So she deserves great credit for her efforts to stop the killing of our boys. Now for the time that's been allotted to me, I want to give you 5 principles that I think are the most important things that Dr. King taught. Incidentally, when you go to the memorial, which is a wonderful place, make sure you go to the bookstore first. He wrote a book 49 years ago, not knowing it was his last. It's called Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community.
Wow.
Think about that in light of the impending coronation. If you read this book, you would find out that everything we're saying today, he said 49 years ago. And if you want to know how to fix our problems, read the book. And Tender Hearts. And he said one of the most difficult things you can ever try to do is to get people to think. Come on, y'all. Some of us would not be in some of the relationships that sunk if you had been... Y'all real quiet in here. Some of us would not be in some of the places we are if you had taken some time to think. In that sermon, he said something that is very important for the impending coronation. We do not need to look far to detect the dangers of soft-mindedness. Dictators capitalizing on soft-mindedness have led men to acts of barbarity and terror that are unthinkable in civilized society. Adolf Hitler realized that soft-mindedness was so prevalent among his followers. He said, I use emotion for the many.
Sound familiar.
Oh, wow.
And reserve reason for the few. Y'all quiet up in here. By means in Mein Kampf, which is what Hitler wrote, it's kind of like his statement of how he thought things should be. This is King speaking, not me. He quotes from Mein Kampf. By means of shrewd lies, unremittedly repeated.
What?
It is possible to make people believe that heaven is hell and hell is heaven. The greater the lie, the more readily people will believe it. We're going to build a wall. And so on.
And so on.
And so on.
Yeah.
And so on.
Yeah.
So people are commended by Dr. King in this sermon to think. Don't just believe it because it was said. Believe it only after you've researched it. Oh, how we hate Obamacare. We need to get rid of it. And now you finally figured out that Obamacare is what kept you from dying. Number 2, people of faith must do more than be comfortable.
All right? All right?
Thank you.
From the dark places of that Birmingham jail, on the corners of newspapers, on toilet tissue, and finally they let him have a writing pad. He wrote this letter to the church and expressed his disappointment in the church from the vantage point that if anybody should be for freedom,
That's right.
if anybody should be walking like we're walking, he was disappointed that he found so few preachers that were committed to that cause. Now, I've been a clergyman for almost 40 years. And I can tell you, I understand what Dr. King said. We got all these young people that are creating all these problems in the streets. We're afraid to come to our cars. Well, didn't he tell you, the Lord that is, didn't he tell you to go out and rescue the perishing and care for the dying? Why are you calling the police? Why aren't you falling on your knees and celebrating God for a great opportunity to bring Ray Ray, Pookie, Shanae, and Baby into the house of God? Number 3, it ain't me, whatever it is. Number 3, people of conscience must speak truth to power. We seem to find ourselves in this season of prophetic laryngitis. You know, prophets spell 2 ways.
Yeah.
Slow, y'all are slow. Prophets are spelled 2 ways. One means you're the mouthpiece of God.
Amen.
The other one means you're trying to make money. In the age of chicken dinners, come on, say amen. Trying to gussy up the people so you can be seen or something. That day is done. People of conscience must speak truth to power. Who had been before me? It was in New York a year to the day that he died, almost to the hour that he preached, or spoke rather, it's time to break the silence. And beloved, it's time to break the silence. In our nation, not just in Washington, it's everywhere. If you can spend $12,000 to educate somebody per pupil and spend $50,000 to send them to jail, time to break the silence. You're not hearing me. When you have a situation where in this city, the average, the median income for a single white male is $97,000, and the median income for a single black man is $30,000. It's time to break the silence. People of conscience must speak truth to power. Let me hurry up, my time is nearly done. People of conviction must be vigilant. When he did preach his last sermon in the pulpit, it happened here in Washington. And he preached about Rip Van Winkle. You know the guy that took a sleep during the Revolution? And when he went to sleep, the sign on the door said, King George. And when he woke up, it said George Washington. He had slept through a revolution. And there's a revolution going on, and King reminded us that we need to stop and not sleep through a revolution. Gentrification that is not balanced is revolution. Assaults on the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendments by the Supreme Court that the king, that the president will soon appoint is revolution. People of conviction must be vigilant. And finally, people of the cross should be unafraid to die.
Thank you.
King said, a person who has not found something to die for is not fit to live. In that last speech, we all remember, I've been to the mountaintop and all of that. He also said, if I had a chance to ask God for a time in which to live, I'd ask him to let me live right now, because this is a time in which things are changing. What will you die for?
That's good. That's good, Pastor.
Better coverage for your iPhone? And I could go on. So let me leave you with these three things. We need to cease the appalling silence. Don't be mad about it. Say something about it.
That's good.
Do something about it. You must exclaim every time you breathe and every time you walk. We will not go back. We will not tolerate. And we won't be silent. We ain't going back to those days when your first name was nigger and your last name was calling them names that we assign to dogs. Ain't going back. And we will not be silent. If it's wrong, it's wrong. So leave here today with this conviction. Because of these 5 principles of Dr. King, think. People of faith must do more than be comfortable. People of conscience must speak truth to power. People of conviction must be vigilant. And people of the cross must be unafraid to die. Go out of this room after this fabulous initiative has been started by our good mayor, with one phrase on your lips: not me, not mine, and not on my watch. And when the coronation is over, and you might feel a little sad, just remember that the same God that brought you through the Middle Passage. The same God that got you through slavery. The same God that got you through Jim Crow, lynching, and segregation. The same God that got you past dogs, fire hoses, and the like. And the same God that got you Barack Obama is still alive and will do it again. That's it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Antoine Peters, and today, as we reflect on the life, legacy, and sacrifice of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I have the privilege and honor of representing the Monarchs of Ron Brown College Preparatory High School at this event. Before the school year started, I thought Ron Brown would be a strange school to go to because it is an all-boys school. However, since my fellow Kings and I have entered the door for the first time, I have come to understand our school motto, which is character, scholarship, and service, which is all characteristics that Dr. King has exemplified in his lifetime. The atmosphere of Ron Brown is positive and a great place for learning. I feel that the school is different because the method of teaching and the opportunities they give us, like the one I have been given today. My subject so far at Ron Brown that I like is math with Mr. Green. Mr. Green has not just made math fun, he made it also important about other things in life that we need to learn about. And I would like to thank my English teachers for making this possible also. We have other mottos at our school. We begin every morning by greeting one another and shouting the call and response, "We are all in." One of the more powerful sayings we have is RBHS 2020. It stands for the first year of the class of Ron Brown will graduate, but it also describes the quality of our vision. For Dr. King, our vision is clear. Our eyes is on the prize. We are young men of Ron Brown College Preparatory High School. We are all in for our school, all in for our city, all in for our country. A country that Dr. King loves so much that he challenged us to do better. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce the Mayor of Washington, D.C., Mayor Muriel Browder.
When I say we are, you say all in. We are all in. We are all in. We are all in. Because that's what they do at Ron Brown. Yeah. And that's why we're so proud of those young men and all that they will do in our city. I am so glad to be here at the Friendship Public Charter School. Let's give our host a big round of appreciation. And I've been out all morning around our city celebrating the life of Dr. Martin Luther King and what his legacy means for all of us. I decided that I would put on my Obama t-shirt to celebrate. And you can wear your Obama t-shirt for as long as you want for the next 4 years. Put your hat on, do whatever you like. But I felt like putting on my Obama t-shirt today. And part of what we're doing here today is helping to submit President Obama's legacy in our city. We will be recognizing today a few people that are going to help us do that. You already heard from Dr. Roger Mitchell. Give Dr. Roger Mitchell a big round of applause. And I do things a little bit differently. You all have heard of my brother's keeper. It's President Obama's project, his initiative, his focus on how he's going to change the life for young boys of color. And we have been working on this initiative through our schools. You heard about Ron Brown. You know about our focus on jobs for young people. And we have just a dynamic man in our administration, and Dr. Mitchell. Now, he's the chief medical examiner. You know, maybe they put the chief medical examiner in charge of the Young Boys Initiative. But I don't want these young boys to see the chief medical examiner till it's their good natural time.
That's right.
And what Dr. Mitchell has done with our Dr. Nesbitt is we have been focused on looking at the problem of violence in our communities and making sure not only do we deal with it from the law enforcement perspective, because we will deal with it from the law enforcement perspective if we have to, but we also want to deal with it from a prevention perspective. And that has been the focus of our Safer, Stronger DC initiative. So when the White House launched My Brother's Keeper in 2014, because President Obama recognized the need to help more young people, particularly boys of color, to stay on the right track. And everyone knows that in just a few days, the president is going to be leaving office, but he has committed to making sure that he puts the full force of his legacy and his convening power and his fundraising power behind this initiative to do exactly that. So my administration and many community partners are stepping up our efforts to engage boys of color and the specific challenges they are facing across DC. We're coming together and we're doing more to empower DC's boys of color, and we will do this through community partnerships and government programs that touch every aspect of a young man's life. Life doesn't happen in a silo. We know that. We know that in our own lives. And we know, particularly for our young boys, we have to break through the silos. Let me just give you a few important facts about our boys. Last year, graduation rates were up for boys of color. Not by accident, but because of investments and supports and our focus on making sure that our boys get what they need. And even when we're challenged, we're going to fight so that our boys get what they need. Suspension rates went down in the district last year. We can't teach them if they're not in school. But the disparities between boys of color and their peers remain too great. We still have a 13% literacy skills gap in elementary schools between boys of color and their peers. There's still a 17% gap in the graduation rates for our boys of color and their peers. And still, our young men of color are more likely than any other demographic to be unemployed, to be arrested, or to be threatened by violence. Washington, D.C. can and must do better. So my administration has launched various programs and initiatives to reach these young men. I've worked with DCPS to launch the Empowering Males of Color initiative. It's a bold effort to increase the success of Black and Latino males. We have launched the 500 for 500. If you've mentored a young boy in Washington, D.C., give yourselves a round of applause. To the council to get funded 400 positions for court-involved youth. How many of you have said, you've been on your block and said, if that boy just had a job, if somebody would just straighten him up. He wants to work, but nobody will give him a chance. He's had some trouble, but not major trouble. Doesn't hurt anybody, didn't kill anybody. Somebody needs to give him a chance. And that's what Career Connections is for. We take referrals from our community partners about that young man. He's had a little trouble, but he can still turn it around. And that's what we've been focused on with LEAP as well. It is a program in our administration, and it's largely funded by our Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program. And so we've invested this, we've told all of our agencies that we're going to identify vacancies in DC government. The 33,000 person government, there are vacancies. And we're going to set aside certain of these vacancies only for DC residents. In schools, it happens in our mentoring programs, it happens with directors like Dr. Mitchell and all of the Bowser administration officials who are here. Where are you? Give a big raise of a round of applause. Raise your hands. I can't see you. Raise your hands. Why aren't you your hand up shorter? Thank you. These folks are working day in and day out to provide the service that DC residents deserve. Let me talk about the focus of the My Brother's Keeper initiative in Washington. With this launch, we will double down on many of the efforts I just talked about in our commitment to young boys of color. We will specifically focus on 4 critical areas: justice, education, health, and opportunities. So over the next year, we commit to ensuring that our justice system works better for our young men of color. We commit to creating a renewed sense of urgency around our education with a focus on how the system is addressing the specific needs of our boys and young men of color.